Here's everything you need to know about the Mandalorian's Mythosaur. Welcome back to Nerdist News. I'm Hector Navarro, and today we're telling you everything you need to know about the mythical Mythosaur from the Star Wars galaxy. The fantastical creature has been a huge part of the fictional Mandalorian culture, and over the past 2 seasons of the Mandalorian series on Disney Plus, and even a little in the Book of Boba Fett, we've been hearing about how the animal fits into Mando mythology. But before we get into all the specifics we really want to talk about, we need to fly our spoiler flag. So, if you're not all the way caught up on every episode of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, or want to learn about the Mythosaur on your own from other aspects of the Star Wars franchise, then now's your chance to go get caught up and do some extra fun Star Wars research.
This is the way.
If you're still here, sit back, relax, and let us do all the research for you. Ready? Here we go. First, we need to talk about what we know so far about the Mythosaur from Star Wars media that is canon, which isn't a whole lot. The first appearance of the creature was from The Empire Strikes Back, where it appeared as a sigil on the shoulder armor of bounty hunter Boba Fett. We can pretty much count any adult Boba Fett appearance since then as also being an appearance of the Mythosaur because, hey, it's on the Fett man's armor. The Mythosaur was first identified in current Star Wars canon in 2015 from issue 32 of the magazine Star Wars Build the Millennium Falcon, which was a magazine series that came packaged with Millennium Falcon model parts in each issue. That sounds fun as hell.
Why do you take this apart now? I'm trying to get us out of here and you pull both of these...
Excuse me, sir.
Put them back together right now.
In that issue, we got a section called Guide to the Galaxy, The History of Mandalore, where we learned that, quote, the long-extinct Mythosaur was a creature of gigantic proportions, whose memory still lives on today in the Mythosaur skull emblem sported by many Mandalorians. So, according to this, their extinction came long before the Mandalorian cataclysm, where the final part of the war between Mandalorians and Jedi destroyed much of the surface of the Mandalorians' planet, before the Empire came and finished the job centuries later. And we also know that before they went extinct, they were tamed and ridden by ancient Mandalorians. This is what Queel referenced to Din Djarin in the very first episode of The Mandalorian show.
You are a Mandalorian. Your ancestors rode the great Mythosaur.
I have spoken. And in Chapter 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, we hear the Armorer say that ancient Mandalorian songs and myth include a prophecy of the Mythosaur returning.
The songs of eons past foretold of the Mythosaur rising up to herald a new age of Mandalore.
In the sequel trilogy, a Mythosaur banner hangs at Maz Kanata's castle, showing that the Mandalorians have persisted to that era as well. And if you're able to head to Disneyland, you can see a Mythosaur skull in person hanging on the wall of Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities. I love Galaxy's Edge. It's fun. Yes, the Mythosaur has only ever appeared as a sigil on Mandalorian armor, or as a necklace, or as a decoration, never in person, in the flesh, not even in flashbacks. Until the newest episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, where at the end of Chapter 18, The Mines of Mandalore, Bo-Katan Kryze actually rescued Din Djarin from drowning, and she saw a living, breathing, massive Mythosaur. This was a big old fish.
There's always a bigger fish.
The fact that Bo-Katan is the only one to see this creature so far fuels a lot of conflict that will be developed in this season. We know that Bo-Katan and Din, while having an uneasy alliance at the moment, will have to face off against each other to see which of them could lead the Mandalorian people into a brighter future. Bo-Katan is already pissed that Din won the Darksaber from Moff Gideon in the Mandalorian Season 2 finale. And now that another mythical symbol of Mandalorian leadership has made an appearance in the series, we know that this will play a big part in this season's journey. And we have no idea what's going to happen next. How is this Mythosaur still alive? Will it herald a new age for Mandalore?
We shall see.
This is everything we know about the creature so far from canon Star Wars media. So that's not a lot of information to go off of. But thanks to Star Wars Legends, the older stories that are now considered legends, we've got a lot more Mythosaur stuff to dig into.
Sadly, it only exists in legends.
So, the Mythosaur species first appeared in the 69th issue of the Star Wars comic series from 1982 in a story called Death in the City of Bone, where we see a giant animal skeleton converted into a city of bone. And the description of the city was really cool too. As an awesome sight fills her eyes, the gargantuan, petrified skeleton of some unknown alien animal bored out and converted to a slaver sanctuary. So yes, the animal wasn't identified as a mythosaur back then. It was only retroactively labeled as such in an article from issue 80 of Star Wars Insider magazine called The History of the Mandalorians. And I did all that ding-dong research to basically confirm what I should have already known, because the last big, gorgeous tome of Star Wars information before the expanded universe of comics and novels canon was reset in 2015 was the complete Star Wars Encyclopedia, published in 2008. And I'm lucky enough to have a copy of that book, and it said this about the Mythosaur. Pretty close, actually. Actually, pretty close to landing on it. Mythosaur, an extinct gargantuan monster, some nearly the size of a small city by a few accounts. The Mythosaur was the stuff of Mandalorian legend. They were all destroyed by the first Mandalore. But the City of Bone, a slave quarters on Mandalore, was built out of the bones of the beast by an alien named Suprema during the Galactic Civil War. That's enough of that. So we can track down the interesting new bit of information in that encyclopedia entry, that the animals were made extinct by the first Mandalore. Who is that? What happened in ancient Mandalorian history? Let's unpack. First, we have to briefly talk about Tor Vizsla, a Mandalorian character who founded the splinter group Death Watch during the Mandalorian Civil War, around 60 years before the Battle of Yavin, and who ultimately wanted Mandalorians to take over the galaxy instead of falling in line with a new emerging pacifist Mandalorian culture. Tor Vizsla also ended up being Jango Fett's nemesis. And yeah, Jango Fett killed him. It's pretty sweet.
I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
The Vizsla clan name was brought over into Canon by Dave Filoni during the animated Clone Wars series and has played a role in the Mandalorian story ever since. But anyway, this Tor Vizsla character appears in the Legends book, The Bounty Hunter Code from the Files of Boba Fett. This 2013 book was also the first source that provided a description of a living mythosaur. Everything released before only ever talked about mythosaur skeletons or mythosaur symbols. In the book, Tor Vizsla recounts Mandalorian history by saying, when the progenitors arrived, Mandalore was inhabited by huge horned creatures, the savage mythosaurs. The clans tested themselves against these great beasts until all had fallen before their axes and swords. Awesome. Extinction. So this is how the mythosaurs were wiped out. And they were the dominant species of their planet before anyone else arrived, just like the dinosaurs were in our planet's history.
Woman inherits the earth.
But who were the alien invaders who came and wiped them out? Well, thanks to Star Wars The Essential Atlas, we know these progenitors, as Tor Vizsla called them, were the Tuong people, and they arrived on the planet around 7,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. They were led by Mandalore the First, and that is why Mandalorian leaders go by the title of Mandalore. The mythosaur being tied to the Mandalore is also referenced by the plaque that Bo-Katan reads in the mines this episode.
Hold on. I want you to get the full tour.
And after this mythosaur extinction, these people named themselves Mandalorians and the planet itself Mandalore in honor of their leader.
This is the way.
So, knowing all this history, it makes sense that the mythosaur skull became a symbol to the Mandalorian people. Even just the skeletons left behind on the planet became the source of weapons for the Mandalorians, like the mythosaur axe, which is the most metal-sounding thing ever, or even made into a ceremonial mask for Mandalore the First, a mask which, of course, was passed down through the generations. As we learn in the Legends novel Imperial Commando 501st, even a Mandalorian starship company called Mandal Motors used the mythosaur skull as its corporate logo. Banners, armor, tattoos, the mythosaur skull symbol is all over the Star Wars Legends media. And in the last bit of research we did for this video all about the mythosaur, the very act of retroactive continuity is going to come into play. Remember the City of Bone that we saw in the classic Star Wars comic that we showed you earlier? A city made of mythosaur bones? You know, Bone City? Well, as it turns out, another thing we learned in the Imperial Commando 501st book that was released in 2009 is that wasn't actually real Mythosaur bones. It was all fake.
Okay.
A Mandalorian citizen wanted to create a theme park and, when it failed, sold it off to the Imperial garrison by convincing them it was a sacred temple. So that brings us full circle, all the way back to that first Mythosaur, but it wasn't even technically a Mythosaur, appearance in Star Wars issue number 69, and it's still nice.
This is the way.
Whew! That is everything you could possibly know about the mythical Mythosaur creature of Mandalore lore from Star Wars Legends canon, which is not the creature that Boba Fett rides in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Settle down.
That's a Pars Ichthyodont. Duh, everybody knows that.
You are foolish to waste your kindness on this dumb creature.
We still don't know how much of that lore is going to play into the new stories we're getting from Lucasfilm and Disney, but knowing that Dave Filoni pulled a lot of fan-favorite elements from Legends into the new canon, we wouldn't be surprised if it's true.
All of it.
Is this Mythosaur history something that Bo-Katan Kryze and Din Djarin are aware of? And did the appearance of the creature occur just so that Bo-Katan could get her faith in the Mandalorian creed back? Will it be the spark of a renewed fight between the two of them? We'll have to keep tuning in on Wednesdays to find out.
This is the way.
But what do you folks think? How do you think the Mythosaur will factor into this season's story in The Mandalorian? Did you count how many times I said the word Mandalorian? I think it was 1,000. Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. And for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, Mandalorian 1001, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.